Welcome back to Forsyth Virtual Academy's U.S. History course. Jamestown did not function in a vacuum. There were other British colonies, even French, Spanish, and Portuguese. While Jamestown struggled to survive, other settlements from England tried to make their way in the New World. Another of these new settlements was the Plymouth Colony. In 1629, a group of non-separatist Puritans formed their own joint stock company. If you remember previously, we talked about the Virginia Company also being a joint stock company. This group of Puritans, led by John Winthrop, secured a charter from King Charles I and looked to establish their own Puritan colony. Winthrop and about 1,000 other Puritans settled what's called the Massachusetts Bay Colony. Here, they created their own government body called the General Court. The General Court had the power to impose taxes and elect officials. About 15 years after the creation of the Massachusetts Bay Colony, the colony lost its charter by defying the rules of the Navigation Act. The acts were passed by British Parliament in 1660, 1663, and 1673, and restricted trade among the colonies. Not cool, British Parliament. All right, so let's jump back to the Puritans and why they came to the New World. The Puritans, much like the Pilgrims, came to the New World seeking religious freedom. However, once they arrived in the New World, they really weren't very accepting of other people's religions. Their strict approach led to a decrease in church membership, and they had to begin to think of ways to increase membership because church membership meant that you could vote and it meant that you could participate in government. And without those things being able to take place, they needed new voters, new people brought in to the colony that could participate. So they came up with an idea. Their idea was the Halfway Covenant. The Halfway Covenant allowed the children of baptized but unconverted members to be baptized themselves. So that's sort of confusing sounding. Basically, if I was a member and I hadn't converted to the church but I'd been baptized, my kid could get baptized and now become a member of the church. The only stipulations were that those new members were not allowed to vote or to take communion. So when we talk about U.S. history, especially colonial history, this is a time period that a lot of students seem to have a lot of interest in. The main reason students seem to be interested in this time period is because the Massachusetts Bay Colony is where the Salem witch trials occurred. The 10-month witchcraft hysteria led to 19 people being found guilty of practicing witchcraft, and those 19 people were hung. So I realize that a lot of students may be super interested in the Salem witch trials. Unfortunately, we're not going to go into great detail as a class. However, I will put a link in the course for those of you that would like some additional information about the Salem witch trials. All right, here we go. Let's move away from the Salem witch trials and move back over to what was going on in New England with the settlement of all of these new colonies. The settlers of New England depended on a good relationship with Native Americans, and it worked out pretty well at times. The Native Americans assisted the settlers with trade and with learning how to adapt to the new land. The Europeans, however, didn't bring the same kind of positive things. Unfortunately, they brought new diseases like smallpox and took land from the Native Americans. And just as in Virginia, conflict was inevitable between the settlers and the Native Americans. The conflict came to a head in 1675 when the leader of the Wampanoag tribe, King Philip, waged a war on the settlements that were expanding into the southern part of New England. The settlers aligned themselves with another group of Native Americans called the Mohawk tribe, and together they eventually defeated King Philip, and King Philip was killed in 1676 and ended what was known as King Philip's War. This led the way for the further expansion of those colonial settlements into what was formerly Native American land. So I know you're saying this has been a long video, and it has been. We've got two more to take a look at. We want to take a look at the mid-Atlantic colonies that were controlled by the Dutch, and we also want to take a look at what was going on in the settlement of Quebec. That's where I'm from. So I'm going to drop another date in here to help you realize that all of these colonies were sort of taking place around a similar time. So in 1624, the Dutch West India Company established trading posts along the Hudson River. This led to the Dutch settlement of New Amsterdam in 1626. New Amsterdam was founded after purchasing Manhattan Island from the Manhattan Native American tribe. This settlement quickly became a major trading port. The Dutch governor turned the colony over to England in 1664, and it was renamed New York after the Duke of York, King Charles II's brother. Shortly after the settlement of New Amsterdam, Thomas Hooker led a small group of settlers from Massachusetts to Connecticut in 1636. It was believed that the land in Connecticut was better suited for farming. As new colonists arrived, the Fundamental Orders of Connecticut were put into place in order to establish laws for the very new colony. I hope that you're beginning to notice that many of the colonies, as they're being established, are beginning to create their own laws to provide some sort of guidelines for the colonists that are living there. The next colony is Rhode Island. Rhode Island was established by Roger Williams and Anne Hutchinson, both of whom had been banished from Massachusetts for having religious views that did not coincide with those of the other Puritans. Rhode Island became a refuge for other people who believed the church should be separate from the government. We also have the founding of Pennsylvania. William Penn received a large tract of land from King Charles II in 1681. Penn, who was a member of the Quaker religion, formed the colony of Pennsylvania. Quakers believed in pacifism, tolerance, and religious equality for women. They were often persecuted for their way of life, and the colony of Delaware finally is established in 1703 from a section of Pennsylvania. Our last part of this video is going to focus on Quebec, the settlement founded by Samuel de Champlain. I know I'm from Quebec, but I can't speak French. Quebec, also known as New France, encouraged Native Americans to become part of the Catholic Church and to fight against the expansion of the English settlements. The French established an important fur trade with the Native Americans, explored the Great Lakes region, and traveled down the Mississippi River to the Gulf of Mexico. They named this area Louisiana in honor of King Louis. This map, although representing 1754 and then 1763, gives us a good idea of what countries were in control of what areas in the New World. So great job, guys. You wrapped up this video. Continue on through the unit, and as always, if you have any questions or concerns, just let me know. Have a great day.